Question. Go ahead and raise up your hand so I can call you to ask your question. Patrick, do you have any questions so far?
No, I don't.
Okay. What about you, Kisito?
No, I don't.
Okay. Peter, do you have any question?
Good evening, sir.
Yeah, evening. Do you have any questions so far based on what we've been doing?
No, sir.
No question so far.
Okay. So, Patrick, what's the difference between the web and the internet? Patrick, are you there? Patrick, can you hear me? I was asking what the difference between the web and the internet is. I really can't hear you, Patrick. Anyway. Okay, so who else is here? If you know you've not gotten to this section of the design, just raise up your hand. Let me know. Let me know how we are, what I'm doing. If you've not gotten to this section of the design, let me see your hand up. So we've all gotten to this session. Kizito, have you completed this session? Have you done all these things? The Wednesday video is showing. All the videos are showing. Olajide.
Okay, yes. Yeah, they're showing, sir. But what I meant is I've not watched that Wednesday video particularly.
Kola Wale. Are you here? Have you gotten to this stage? What about you, Patrick? Have you gotten to this stage? Patrick, I really can't hear you. If you are speaking, I really can't hear you. Okay, so I'm just going to run through what we've been doing so far. I'll just run through it, then it shows a few places on Figma, and then we call it night. So the class is supposed to be interactive. If you've not done your task and also don't have a question, I don't know. So for the class, we started with the internet and www. So we took a look at what exactly the internet is, how it works, what exactly is the www, and also took a look at web technologies. Okay. So for this, we said the internet is basically a network of networks, right? So all these networks, they are owned by different organizations, academic businesses, private and government agencies. Okay. So with the internet, we said it's a network of networks, okay, that basically facilitates communication between different computers globally. And we said it works using what? Using these four main components, that is a server, a client, a router, and an ISP. So for the internet to work, you have your server. So these servers are like large computers that are used to, connect these networks together. Then the client is basically your own computer, the computer we are using to access the internet. That is the client. Now this router is basically the route this internet these network devices, transmit information through. And then your ISP are basically companies that help you provide you internet access. Companies like MTN, Glo, and the rest of them. They are all called ISPs. So the internet basically works by transmitting data through a method called packet switching, which involves breaking down data into packets and routing them their way. So like I said, this is not for you to go too technical inside. It's just for you to have like a top overview of how the internet works, understand what is TCP/IP, understand what is a DNS, a domain name system. So as a web designer, at least you should have that common knowledge that whenever someone types in a domain name, they are actually not heading to the domain name. Instead, there's something called DNS. So for instance, when you type google.com, that DNS translates that google.com to the Google's IP address, right? So it can locate that computer, wherever the computer it is, and communicate with it. So we now said the web is different from the internet. In other words, the internet is not the web. So the internet is this giant global of computers connected to each other with the aim of facilitating and sharing information. Meanwhile, services like the web is built on top of the internet. Like on the internet, you have services like the email, you have services like the voice over internet protocol, that's the VoIP, which is mainly used for calls. Then you also have the web, right? The web. So the web is this giant place on the internet where we communicate, where we buy and sell, where we do almost everything, right? So it's just a service on the internet. And it has three main components. For you to be able to access the web, you need a browser. You can actually access the internet without a browser. But for you to access the web, you need a browser. And the browser is basically a software that allows you to display HTML codes. Okay, so aside the browser, you also need another piece of web, which is a web server. So these web servers are basically scripts written and saved in different servers with the content of helping you to share files. And then you need the HTML. That's the standard language for creating a web page. So you probably heard of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. If you're going to be a web designer, you should be familiar with some of these things. Even if you don't know how to write them, you should be familiar with them because they come in handy. From there, we just talked about the web technologies, like I mentioned, HTML, CSS. HTML is used to structure a web page, while CSS is used to style a web page. So when you are laying out the content of a web page, you use HTML, right? But when you want to color, you want to style it, you go ahead and use CSS. Now, when you want to add interaction, you go ahead and use what? JavaScript. And if you want to program the web servers we talked about here, if you want to be able to program them and set the logic, you use back-end technologies like Node.js, Django, and the rest of them. So it's important you know all these things. And immediately after this, we went to websites and more. Under website and more, we looked at exactly what a website is. And we said a website is basically a collection of web pages. So when you have a website, when you have different web pages, maybe home, about us, contact us, right? If the pages falls under the same domain name, okay? If they fall under a common domain name, for example, a domain name like kizito.com, okay? That is a website, right? And on a website, on every website, you are going to see components like the web pages. The web pages are the individual document accessible via web browser. Then you have the media. Media include text, images, videos, and other multimedia content. This can also include animations, PNGs, and what have you. Then you have navigation. How do you move around the website? Okay, these are the three components of the website. And the way it works is anytime you go to your browser and say type in google.com, the browser takes your request, send it to the DNS resolution to translate back that name to the computer's IP address. Okay, and once that is done, the server receives your request and then sends back a response. That response is then rendered on your web browser. So basically, that's how it works. So having this top level understanding of how the website works can even help you even when presenting or even when discussing with stakeholders when it comes to a web project. Okay, so it's very important you know all these things at the intermediate level. So we've already talked about these things, and yes, and then we went ahead to talk about the CSS box model, which I will take time to re-explain shortly once I'm done with this. So I'll explain all these things shortly. So let's go to executing a web project. So the reason why we've structured this course like this is you are likely to get someone, maybe your neighbor, your friend, your family member, to say, oh, since you said you are now learning how to do website design, help us design a website. So that's why we are telling you what it takes to create what a website project, to execute it. We'll still come back to this in brief, but we just wanted you to have an overview, an idea of what it takes to execute a project. Okay. The first thing is you are going to receive the project brief. So either someone will come to your DM and say, I want a project, I want a website. You ask the person, okay, what do you want the website for? What kind of business do you do? What kind of service do you offer? And what are the features you would like to see on the website? Now, that is the requirement gathering. Okay, you gather report. Someone might reach out to you and say, okay, this is this is what we do, this is blah 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 blah. We need a website. Then you want to do a little bit more research to gather all the necessary information needed. So these are places you talk about things like the objectives, the project scope, the details functions, stakeholder interviews, and then you clarify on user needs and some of the constraints. Okay. So once you get the project brief out of the way, you can start choosing of how are we going to build this website. Okay. You can start choosing how are we going to build this website. Now, Okay. Okay. Sorry, guys. I'm back. And okay, great. So we said immediately you've understood the requirements for the project, the next thing is to now ask yourself, how are we going to design this website? Can you guys hear me? If you can hear me, just drop a reaction. Let me be sure we can hear. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, great. So once you receive the quotation or whatever it is, you've checked it and you've seen whatever you need to design the website, you've gotten all the documents and everything. The next thing is the tech stack. How are you going to build it? So generally, there are three ways you are likely going to build that website. First one is to use custom code. And the advantage is that you have full control of the design and functionality, but then it requires in-depth programming knowledge. So you need to know HTML, you need to know CSS, you need to know JavaScript, you need to know some front-end frameworks like React. Then on the back end, you need to know how to work with databases, and all those stuffs. Then the second one is to replace your back end with the back end that will manage the content with some form of CMS. So CMS means content management system. So that's what CMS can help you do is you can actually code a simple static HTML website. Then you can use a CMS to be managing the content, the dynamic part of the website, okay, like your blog and every other thing. So example is WordPress, Drupal, and the rest of them. But with all of them, the problem with all the CMS is that the more features you want, the more plugins you download. Okay, so you might end up using plugins or downloading themes that will have so many features that you are not using, and it will just be there eating up your server resources. Then we have the last one, which is the no-code builders. So no-code builders are almost the same like CMS, but they are different in the sense that they have this visual interface that makes it easy for you to start designing websites. Even as a web designer, even as a graphic designer, you can actually start designing websites at once. Okay, so that's why we say great for non-developers. Then immediately you've chosen your stack, you can now what design. So you do the design first. So at the design part, this is where you call in the UI UX designers, okay? People that use Figma to design or any other tool for design. They'll be the one to come and design the website. Once they are done designing it, you now come and build it. So you are building. Either you are using custom code, either you are using no code, or either you are using low code, right? That's CMS. So you guys are the one stepping into the step two. Immediately they finish designing, they are going to hand over that design to you, and you will now develop it. After developing it, you want to go ahead and test it. Okay, you want to go ahead and test it. So you want to go ahead and test, okay? You want to go ahead and test that design and publish your website. So after publishing, there are other things you could do. You could also be the one in charge of updating, monitoring, and maintaining that website. Or it could be an additional service you could actually charge your clients. So based on this revision so far, do you have any questions? Please, if you do, go ahead and ask. Okay. Kels, what's your question?
My question is that when I checked Webflow, it was paid. One, you have to pay in dollars and it's monthly payment. So I don't know how that will work. I think it will make everything expensive. Since I don't know whether Webflow will host or give domain name, that means the client will pay for, since we are using this one, they will pay for using their services, the Webflow, the domain name, and also the hosting. What I'm saying.
Yeah.
And okay, continue.
So with Webflow, from the way you've spoken, do you use WordPress?
Yes, I've used WordPress.
Okay, great. So with Webflow is suitable for businesses. Okay, it's not always that suitable for agency. especially if you are running a web design agency in Nigeria. It's not going to be suitable for you. Reason being that in Nigeria, most businesses, not that they don't like paying, but most businesses don't have a lot of capital to start, right? So they are unable to pay high amounts for websites. So yes, Webflow supports domain name and all those things. It supports it, just that it is billed monthly or also annually. So that's one thing with no code builders. They have to, you are restricted to their platforms, okay? But the good thing is with no code builders like Webflow, those updates, you normally go into WordPress to update plugin, to do this, to do that, to do this, to do that. You are not doing it anymore. Are you getting it? Because once they update their system, everything you are doing update, except you have like third-party softwares, then you might need to manually update those ones. Okay. So the reason why we are doing this Webflow class is because for most of us here, due to what Tinubu have been doing and the good leadership he has been rendering the country, a lot of people are looking outside of Nigeria to start earning a living. Okay. And Webflow is one of the most sought after web design tool outside Nigeria. So one of the main reasons we are teaching this is so that you can start trying to get foreign jobs. Right now, if you go to Upwork for a web design job for WordPress, okay, you would see more people applying compared to Webflow. So it's a skill that once you have, you can easily take advantage of the fact that this is what most foreign companies prefer now when it comes to designing websites. Okay, they prefer Webflow to WordPress. Okay, because everybody is trying to cut down on on the resources, cut of server resources cost. I guess, and the fact that it's also more flexible, right? You have everything, managing everything in one place. So as far as price is concerned, compared to some, not all, compared to some WordPress websites, Workflow is cheaper. But then again, there are some WordPress websites. By the time you say you bought a theme, if you buy a theme for $60, okay, and you buy WP form to handle your form because you need advanced form, and you buy WP form for like another $60, that is $120. By the time you want to use Slider Revolution, you buy that one for $70. Are we together? Kels, are we together?
Yes, yes.
You understand what I mean, ba? So by the time you buy the Slider Revolution again, and you keep buying, you keep buying, you keep buying, you find out that you might end up spending up to $500 on that website, or even $700 by the time you keep buying everything, right? The truth is, if you meet a serious business, most WordPress developers in Nigeria, they like using fake products, they like using what node teams and the rest of them. But the truth is, if you are working with a serious business, they wouldn't want you to use anything node or free, right? Or duplicates. You want to get the original one so that when you hand over to them, they can actually update it anyhow and anytime they like. So by the time you check it, you now find out that actually the Webflow cost and the WordPress cost is not that actually different. Okay. But as far as this learning is concerned, you can use up to 2 pages. Webflow offers you up to 2 pages, and what we're doing might not be up to 2 pages. Okay, so we're just going to be doing like quick practicals and stuff like that. So yeah, so that's how it works. I don't know if you have any other question. Okay, no other question. So let me proceed. So let me go back and let's talk about the box model, okay? Because it's very important to understand this box model. So with the box model, we are okay. Before I come in here, let's just go to any website at all. Which websites? Let's just go to Google. Google is faster. Now, with any website, like we said, once this browser renders this thing now, we have these elements. All these things, you call them elements. All these things like this logo, every other thing you see here is called an element. If I right click on this website and I click on view page source, here you are going to find all the code that was used to design that specific page. And you can see right now, you have the from doctor, okay, the HTML content all the way down. So, but let's preview this in action. Let me right click and select inspect instead. So with my inspect selected, you see that we have the HTML, which is the entire thing. Then we have the head. The head is where you put things like your link rel, your links to other resources, other JavaScript file, other CSS file, and what have you. Now, immediately after the head, you have the body. The body is like the content. Every other thing on the web, everything you see on the web page is actually inside this body. Everything you see on the web page. The header contains metadata. Okay, metadata like links, like I just said, links to some branding, links to some external plugins and things like that. Your SEO, everything lives on the header, on the head. But then immediately after the head, you have the body, which is basically where everything is. So with HTML, you can structure how the content looks like. But when you want to color it, you use what? CSS. So I was able to turn this off. So let's turn this off. So let's turn off the CSS and then actually see how this page looks like in plain HTML. So you can see the plain HTML. You can see it's having this Google images and this icon. So you see this big icon, you see the Google logo. Are you guys seeing? This is the plain HTML of this page without any styling. So it was coded like this. Now, it was after it was coded like this that CSS was now applied on top, and it now looked the way it looks right now. So let me off this. Let me on it and refresh. So the CSS is the one styling it, making sure everything is centered. Okay. So right now, how was CSS able to achieve this? Let me go back here. Turn this off. Refresh. Now, for every element you add on your page, okay, for every element you add on your page is displayed as a block, Let me right click here and inspect now. Okay, let's inspect, select this, and let's go to that Gmail. Okay, you can see this Gmail, you can see its own block. It's set to auto here. Let's also select this one. You can see the Gmail block. You can see everything is rendered as a block. You can see it's going from edge to edge. This one too is rendered as a block. This one too is rendered as a block. I don't know if you guys are seeing what I'm showing you. So this is what you know as the block, the CSX box. Okay. So if you click on this, if you come here, you can see it's about this by 18, no padding, and also no border, and also no margin. Okay, this is the box, the CSS box. Okay, so with this now, what CSS help you do, you can say that these things are basically appearing in form of long line of blocks, long line of blocks. With CSS, you can choose how those blocks are displayed. You can choose whether they are going to collapse on each other. You can choose whether they are going to float to the left hand side or the right hand side. So you get to choose, or you get to specify how everything is going to look like. Okay, you get to choose how everything is going to look like in CSS.
Hello, we can't hear you. Hello, sir, we can't hear you.
Okay, yeah. So I just explained that with the CSS box model, every element you have on your page is represented inside the box. Okay. So every element you have on your page is represented inside a box like this. So this is your plain HTML. If you add another content or another element, it's going to stay on the page on its own as well. It's going to cross, the box is going to go full width. Okay. It's always going to go full width. So it's important to understand this. But with CSS, we can now use CSS to say, okay, instead of going full width, you people should stack on top of each other like this. And then you group them and say, be on the left-hand side. Are you getting? So that's what you use CSS for. So CSS is for styling these box. And then we said the box model consists of 4 major components. You have your content, then you have your padding, then you have your outline, then you have your margin. So margin is used to differentiate the distance between this element and another element. Okay, the distance between this particular element and another element. Meanwhile, your padding is basically used to determine the spacing within your content. So spacing within your content. Now, your padding and your content will give you the width and height of that element. So anytime you want to calculate for width and height, it is your padding and the content that gives you your width and your height. Meanwhile, the margin is basically the distance between this element and the next element. So if you want to increase the spacing between two elements, you probably want to go ahead and use what? Margin. I don't know if you guys are getting this. So it's very important to understand it, okay? So now, let's go to Webflow. Let's go to Webflow. So I was asking, who is here? Who amongst you here don't reach this particular place? If you've done the nav bar, raise up your hand, let me see. Okay, Coca, well done. I mean, a question you want to ask. Coca, have you done the nav bar or you want to ask question?
I've done Navba.
Okay, great. Have you used WordPress before?
No,
Are you a developer? Do you have any design experience?
No, I've not. I don't have any.
Okay, so this is your first time. Okay, so you are doing well. Meanwhile, do you have any question based on what you've been learning for the past 5 days? Any question? Anyway, let's proceed because before 8:30 we should be rounding up since people don't have like much question. Remember, 1 hour is for training and 1 hour is for questions and answers. So if people don't have questions, that means we close earlier. Now, this is where we stopped at. Please make sure if you have not completed the videos, complete it because from Monday, from Monday, all this while we've been just taking it small, because we just want you to have like a better understanding. But from Monday, we are going to start designing more advanced components. Okay, so let me just escape and we explain this workflow. So with the Webflow now, you have this main page called the main view called Designer. Okay, you have this main page called Designer. So you have this main page called Designer. Let me go back to Designer. Okay. So you have this page called Designer here. Make sure you're always under designing, not editing, okay? You should always be under designing so you can see all the whole thing. Now on this Designer, we have the top bar. Right here, you can choose the size, the device you're working on. So by default, always make sure you are working on your what? Desktop. If anything you design here will affect everything down. If you come here and you design here, whatever you design here in terms of styling, not content, okay? In terms of styling, like if you add color and the rest, it will not affect this one. Oh. If you are here, it will not affect this two. If you are here, it will not affect this three. So take notes. That's why you always want to be here first, okay? So you make sure you are designing everything, and later you can go in and what optimize them. Okay. The next thing that is very important here is the navigator and the add element. Then here is the styling tab. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly refresh. Then if there are no questions, we'll call it a night. Okay. So let me go ahead and add a new page. So with Webflow, with the free version, you can add up to 2 pages. So let me just add 1 page here so we can have fun. So adding page, you click here. Let me just call it playground. So I'm going to call it playground. Then I click on create. By the way, if this was a live project, can you see my screen now? I think my screen is showing.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So by the way, if this was a live project, you can now go ahead and put in your SEOs and all those things, okay? But for now, let me just click on create. So once you click on create, you have this blank canvas, okay? So don't forget, you can come in here and change the canvas size, 1440. Okay, good. So this is my canvas size, 1440. So the next thing we want to do now is structure. We started with structuring first, okay? Structure is extremely important. Structure is extremely what? Important. Without structuring, if you don't understand how structuring works, it's going to be difficult for you to work with what? Webflow. So always understand it. The layout is very important. So if you visit a lot of websites, let's visit paypal.com. Let's visit paystack.com. Let's visit what is the name? Frontnow.de. Let's visit Money Points. Now, if you visit all these websites, you are going to see different types of layouts, which is what I want to point out now, so you can actually understand what I mean by layout. Because chances are, if you are getting the job, once you are getting the job, chances are you will be handed over a design in Figma and you'll be asked to develop it. So let's start with the hero section, okay? We are going to start with the hero section. Okay, it's still loading, so let it load. Front now, okay. This might be. Okay. 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 No, this is not the one I'm looking for. Okay. Now, if you look at the hero section of this website, hero section is basically that anytime you visit a website, right? The first section you see before you scroll or before the fold is called the hero section. In this case, our hero section is right here. You see everything here.
We can't see everything, sir.
It's from your network. Who else can't see my screen? Hope everyone can see my screen.
I've seen it.
Okay, great. So like I said, your hero section is everything here. This is the hero section of this page. Okay. It actually blends in, but let me just do it like this. But remember, anyway, all those blue, that's part of the hero section. Now let's assume you're giving something like this to design. What you can clearly see that you see this particular one, this particular side, this is an image. You have, if you divide this into two, okay, you have an image this side, then you have your text this other side. I don't know if you're getting it. So that's how to understand layouts. You have your image on this side, you have your text this other side. But inside this, your text on this other side, you have some content. Content 1, content 2, 3, and 4. So that means you need something to group them so they are not scattered. That means inside here, you get another div block. Okay, let me use another color. Let me use another color. That means you get another div block to hold these guys. Are you getting it? Now, if I wanted to recreate this in what's it called? In Webflow. So I'll also get a div block to hold this image. Okay, so that is, except you want to add it as a background dependent. So if I wanted to recreate this, okay, on Webflow, all I need to do is to come to my Webflow, okay, click on the plus sign. Remember that hero place we just called, we called it hero section. That means all these things, they are divided into different sections. So what I will do is to go ahead and add a section first. Let me add this section. Now you can see I've added that section. Okay, I've added that section right there. Okay, now immediately you've added the section, which is this. Okay, if you go back here, you notice that these things are not starting from here. They are not starting from here. Instead, they have a box. Okay, they have a box. So if you look here, you find out that there's like a wrapper. Imagine it's almost like invisible, but it's there. Okay, if you keep scrolling down, you see that everything is almost inside here. So this is like a wrapper, but you can always break outside the wrapper. Okay, so what you want to do is to now add a wrapper after adding that section. Okay, after adding the section, you come back, you click on the plus sign again, and now you can add a container. I see it. Now we have a container right inside here. So this container now will be the one to contain these two things. Now, how can you separate it into two? Okay, you can separate it into two by using this. Let me do it the old way. So with the old way, you want to click on the plus sign, okay, with the plus sign, and add two div blocks. So you want to add two div blocks, one, okay, and then you want to click here again and add another one. Okay, now these two div blocks, after adding them, you can easily come in now. This one is supposed to be here like this. Okay, it's supposed to be your section. then your container. So for this container, let's go and size it. Okay, so for this container, let's go and size it. Max width 940. Okay, let's give it a background color so we know exactly what we are working on. Let me give it a background color so you can see it. I'm just going to give it any color now. Let me see. One user in this project. Let me refresh. Let me refresh. I'm coming. Background color, container, section container. Let me give it a color. Let me refresh. I don't know, it's not reflecting. Let me just refresh there. Maybe it's not, the network is not connecting well. So, but that's basically how you build out this part. So you have, let me delete all these things so understand it, okay? So if you are asked to basically build out this part, I think my network is a little bit slow. Okay, even this is not responding fast. So if you are asked to build out this part on Webflow, okay, I'm going to use green to represent the section. So you use your green, you add a section. So you add a section, okay? You add a section. The section is going to always be full width in most cases, okay? Now, after you add your section, let me just draw from here. The next thing you want to do is to get what? A container to contain your content. For that one, let me choose color yellow. So that color yellow, you add it, but instead of making it edge to edge, it has like a what? A size. You restrict, it has like a fixed width. Okay. Now, once you add your container, based on the content you have, you can now get what? Two divs. So you get the two divs, okay? Two divs. Div 1 holds these contents, and div 2 holds this content here. Now, let's assume this button was 2. Because they are button and they are 2, you also need another div to group the two of them inside that purple div. I don't know if people are understanding this now. So understanding how to structure things on Webflow is very, very important. Now let's scroll down and see another layout. So on this layout, basically what you have is right here, everything here is full width again, okay? Full width again. Then you get a container to contain it to this size. Here too, full width again. Okay, I think for that one, you probably is the same thing. You duplicate and get a container for this to hold down all these things. Then when you come in here, you add another content block, get two divs, just like we did for the hero section. You can see we do this for the hero section. So remember, I said these two buttons, you probably also want to do a div to hold two of them. So understanding this structure will help you design better. And you can see it's just left, right, picture here, text here. Basically, that's what you have here. Let's say you wanted to do something like this, okay? To create something like this, first you need your container, you need your section, right? After your section, you can now create what? A div block, a parent div block to hold these guys. Then after that, you can see this 99 and this and the underline will be one block. Then this one block now, Mr. Joseph and business owner, another block. This arrow keys, another block. All of them will now be inside this big div. Now, on this other side, there is one big div again. And inside the big div, you have this first block holding these guys aligned to the right. And then you have another big block here, okay, holding the video. So understanding how to structure this thing is very, very important. Before I go back to Webflow, please, is there anyone here who is likely to see a page and don't know how to structure it, please ask questions so that we go to Webflow and round up. Who can tell me how we are going to get this particular section? This particular section I'm looking at now. Anyone? Okay, Ismail.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone.
Yeah, evening.
So firstly, we are going to have a full width section.
Okay.
So after there is a full width section, then a container that will
Okay.
contain 3. So the div will now be flex.
Yeah.
Then inside
Okay.
each div, so we are going to have a block that's going to contain each element inside it.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean,
Okay.
you mean the 3 cards, right? No, it is 3 cards. Then I think that's all.
Yes. Okay, so you missed one div. Why did I say you missed one div? You missed the div because you said you are going to have div here like this, right?
Yes.
Now
Yes.
you mixed this div for the what more because it's not part of this guys.
Okay.
Are you seeing it? So it's not
Yeah.
part of these guys because it's these guys that have this white div. So it's not part of these guys. So you have to wrap it inside the div as well. Then once you get it, you can duplicate. You can duplicate and duplicate. Okay. So please,
Okay.
as a Webflow designer, no matter how complex the design is, you should be able to see beyond the design and see the block. If you don't see the block, it will get confusing when you start working on complex websites. This one looks a little bit complex. So I used to work for this company. I worked with them last 2 years, I think so. Now, when you see a website like this one might look a little bit more intricate, but there is nothing going on. There's nothing serious going on here. If you can see beyond all these things they are doing like this, there's nothing. So inside here, you still have your long, whatever, your full width div bar, your full width section. Then you can decide to put all these things inside one group. By the way, you can design buttons like this in Webflow. Okay, so I'll show you how to do it in further classes. Now, you get another div. This is another div right here. This is another div right here. Then this is another div. Don't forget the triangular nature. Now the person will render this effect, may be pointed like this. But this is just a normal video. Right? Sorry for the stretch, the video. It cuts here. This is just a normal video. I get it. So it's not like the video have rectangular ratio. No, it is just that the video, the way they rendered it, the way they created the effect, they have the video there, and they have this pointing. So if you notice, I extended this a little bit because if you notice, the video is going from here all the way here. You can see the video in the background, right? Just that this this my okay, let me delete this thing so you guys can understand better. Because this is my red. You see this video? Now from here like this. Because if you look well, you can see it's playing in the background. So this div was created, and then when you create it, you can use something like your margin to push it up. So if you wanted to recreate this, the video needs to be done first before this section. Then you now use this section, push it up with margin to come and position it well, and add that background blur effect to the background so that the part of this section that is not covered by the video will now play well, while the part that is covered by the video will now be blurred out to create that effect. So this is where creativity comes in when you are working with Webflow. And this is something that WordPress don't give you that freedom to do. Although Elementor is really trying hard and pushing the boundaries high, but it is still like a serious workflow when you are trying to achieve things like this in Elementor, because you might achieve it on system, then you have, when you go to mobile, it scatters. So this is how to achieve something like this. Now, when you come down, the same thing, the same thing. These are just one, everything in this content. Then remember, there's a full width container. So always take note of these things. Okay, here we have a full width container, a full width container. Then we have this container containing this, this. Now I can tell that these three, they are in the same container, then followed by this one now. All of them in this one container. So please, it's until you start seeing things like this that Webflow will become easy for you to use to develop any website at all. And please don't get confused, okay? Like I said, when you see things like this, you can see this is clearly a video. So it's not like you want to go and be doing an animation on Webflow. So there are a lot of websites you see, they are extra, they look very creative simply because they've implemented videos and other form of multimedia. So any questions so far? Because that's basically the end of our revision for today. Like I said, starting Monday, and some of you are saying we should add more videos ahead of time. So I'll see if we can be able to do that. We don't just want any of you to skip the videos. We want you to watch it step by step, okay? And if you have questions, always use the WhatsApp group to ask your questions. So before we go to any other question? Yes, so in a section, you have a container, and in a container, you can have div. But this one, why I'm still using div is because that's the main foundation. Although now, okay, what we did, okay, they've all come out. Although nowadays, a div is basically a division. It's like something holding a group of elements, okay? Division is something holding a group of elements, okay? So like someone rightly said, this section, we can display this as flex, and then flex this way. So let's go and check all the inner elements, the inner containers. Sorry. Section, I thought it was block, container. Okay. Block, okay. Container, flex, and then the inner child. Inner child, let's say grow if, okay, grow, and also this one, grow. Okay, let me remove that color so we can see exactly what we're doing. Okay, so, and one thing we talked about again is if you come here, you can see that it is quite tight. So when you want to add padding inside them, you can just click here and let's choose 100. You can see, we can also click on the top one and choose 100. Now we have, you can see how we pushed this down. So understanding this basic concept will help you a lot. But before we go, I said nowadays, people hardly use all this flex and the rest. So most people just add a section because it makes the whole work faster. You add a section, okay? And if you want to contain your section, you can go ahead, add a container. You add a container, choose the width of the container. If you also, remember, this container must not be defined like this. This container sometimes can also be full width, so take note. So what most people do is they just come here and inside of their container, they add this quick stack. So once they add this quick stack, you can see this quick stack. This quick stack basically they are grids on steroids. Okay, so you can see that's giving you cell 1, cell 2. So if you want on cell 1, you can just go in and drop an image right there. So cell 1, you can just go drop an image and it enters inside cell 1. Bam. Okay, then you go ahead and type whatever you want on cell 2. If not typing, you type. I seen it, easy peasy. So that's why a lot of people use it. And the advantage of this is if you go back to Quick Stack, you can actually add more. You can see, and you can create all those bento. Let me show you one bento style web UI. Okay, let's assume you are giving this type of website to design or an app to design. My network is just too slow. Okay, so if you are giving something like this to recreate, right, the best thing to use is that Quick Stack. You can see the Quick Stack. Like, how do you make here small and here big, big, small, small? You can come back here, okay? Let's say on this Quick Stack, let's increase this as well. Plus. You see, you can come in here now and select this one, okay? Merge it. Okay, you can say I have this. Select this one, merge it. Okay, you can actually select this one, merge it. You can also select this one. Okay, let me merge these two instead. Merge. You can see the complex layout we just created now using Quick Stack. And the advantage of this Quick Stack is the more you reduce, it is dynamic, it will be adjusting itself. But if you manually did this, if you want to manually do this, it's going to take you a lot of time because you are going to be talking about using different grids. And once you set up your div block, you want to go and set the flex, that's how it reacts, whether it's set to flex and the rest. So I think I'm going to stop here so I don't give you guys excess information. So let's take it one step at a time. So if you have a question, please ask based on what you've been doing so far, or maybe you've seen some type of website online and you've been wondering how were they achieved right on Webflow. If you do, just let me know. So I'm going to delete all these sections. Let me go ahead and delete it. Any questions so far?
Please, I have a question.
Okay.
Yeah, let's say I need a parent div. So before
Okay.
I notice that I need a parent div, I'm already working with a child div.
Yeah.
So is there any way possible to add that parent div
Yes.
without deleting
Yes.
parent?
Yes. So that is where the navigator comes in handy. So let's say I added a div. Okay. A div block. And I've been designing inside this div block. Let's say I added, let me, not necessary, but let me put button. But here is it. I have this and I've been designing inside this div block, right? Let me go ahead and add another div block and add an image there. Now for this div block, let me add image to it. Okay. So let's assume I've been designing. I have this div block and I have this and I have that. And I mistakenly realized that I needed a parent div for them, right? So
Yes.
what you can just do, come here. You can use, that's what this navigator is for. You can now come to this section, click on the section part, add that parent div, and then drag everything inside. So you can see, you can push it all the way up, okay? And then move everything inside like this.
Wait, I just joined. How did you click to get the navigator? This thing just allowed me to rejoin.
Okay,
What
this
did you
navigator,
do?
this thing that looks like Z. This thing that looks like Z here. Okay, now if you open this up now, you find that these two are now in that new div we just added. Do you get it now? So use it with the navigator. Just make sure, that's why this indenting is very important. You can see right here, this div block is inside the section, right? Now inside it, you have this one, and also you have this one. So if you open this div, you are going to see the button, okay? Then if you open this div, you are going to see the image. Now, if I want the image to be inside this div, I'll just shift it in like this, or just drag it inside it. Are you seeing it? Now, this button and this div is inside this particular image, this particular div block, okay? So, like someone said, div block is not something you need to cram. Div now just creating a wrapper. There's no difference between the section, the div, and the let me come back. See, there's no difference between section, container, quick stack, and div block. The only difference between them is what we call semantic. Semantic. Semantic simply means they are trying to give you a name that makes a little bit sense to what they do. So instead of you just having div, they've told you, okay, use section. Section will always give you this full width div. Everything, if you go on any website, okay, div is an HTML element used to create sections, okay, or used to group a block of content. If you come here, you can see div bar. You can see another div. You can see section. All these things, they are all divs. But with HTML5, they introduce what you call semantic elements. So you can give them names like aside, footer, section, header. Are you getting it? But inside all of them is a div. Div is just a way you group contents to make logical sense in web design. Someone else raised their hand. Who was that? I hope I was able to answer your question, Ismail.
Yes, yes, boss.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Coca, you're welcome.
Okay. I want to ask if after using the quick stack
You want to
multiply,
ask or you are asking?
I'm asking
Okay.
after using after using the quick stack to multiply those div blocks now, what if I want to write something on top of all of them all together? How do we do it?
You place your right up outside all of them so you can use your navigation. But what thing you don't want to do is to come here, okay? See what you don't want to do. Let me select this section and delete. What you don't want to do is to come to the body, or for instance, this body, and then you click on this plus. And instead of adding a structure first, you want to add content, and maybe let's say typography. Okay, you now type your heading. You don't want to do this. Okay, you don't want to leave any of these elements standing on their own. If not, you complicate the whole thing, or you find it more difficult styling it. Okay, you're going to find it more difficult because all these divs, they help you with like wrapper, so that if you want to do 2 columns, it's easy for you to create 2 columns. If you want to do 3 columns, it's easy for you to create 3 columns. Okay, they provide you with wrappers, and wrappers are important so that you can wrap things into logical sense. Okay, do you get it now, Coca?
Yes, sir.
So if you, it depends on the layout. So I'm going to ask Coca a simple question. So Coca. Okay. So Coca, break down how I'm going to get this section if I want to design it.
Okay. So I think the whole thing is inside a container.
Okay.
Then the one by the left, this right up, is in a div block. Everything there is in a div block. While
Okay.
the drawing by the right is another div block.
Okay.
So just to create the div block, use quick stack to multiply it and apply this text to this one, and apply these drawings to this other one.
I get it. So whenever you, from today going forward, all of us here, whenever you look at websites, designs, stop seeing design, start seeing blocks. Okay, start seeing what? Blocks. Now, just like he said, you are going to have what? This needs one another. Just like he said, you are going to have a div, right? Your wait, this is not a day too much. You are going to have your section. Okay. Now, after your section, you might want to have a container, because your container will contain this. Okay. Now, inside your container, you can get a div block. And another div block here. Okay. You get another div block here. Now, all these ones will now be your contents. So this is content, and this is content. You are not typing them together. Of course, you can see that their styling is different. Or if you type them together, you can now style them separately. That means you highlight and style. But ideally, you probably want to style these words separately. Reason being that they don't have the same styling. Then you do this. This is a button. This is a button. Now, who can tell me what do you use in determining the distance between here and here? Who can tell me padding or margin?
Margin.
Awesome. Awesome. So when you now arrange this thing inside this div, you come to this one, you give it maybe that margin 40 at the bottom. Here too, margin 40 at the bottom. Here too, margin 40 at the bottom. So it pushes everything inside. Okay. So you can do this, or if you don't want to do this, if you don't want to manually do all these things, okay, if you don't want to manually do all these things, another approach is you come in here after this particular div, you add a quick stack of one column. That quick stack of one column is going to have 4 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4. Reason why you want to do that, you add your content, add your content, add your content, add your content, then use that gap feature. Okay, you use that gap feature to simply add this gap here, gap here, gap here. So it all depends on how you want to structure, but at the core, they are basically the same thing. Are you getting it? Then you can now come in here and add your picture. Okay, so don't forget, this thing you are likely to be given a design and asked to develop. But if you are a designer, it's a huge plus for you. You eat all the money. If you are not a designer, make sure you go and start making friends with designers and business owners, okay? Not Webflow developers. Webflow developers, everybody they look for money. So the people that are likely to give you your jobs are designers. I remember before I became a Webflow developer, even a WordPress developer, I started with WordPress. Before I started doing WordPress, once I finished my brand identity design, because I started as a graphic designer, once I finished designing, I always have my 2 guys. I'll send to them. They will develop for me until I go live for my CV. Say I dey design websites. That was how I resumed there. First task where they give me, the man say they want me the company get their websites. Say they see for my CV, say I dey design websites. And I can't use my salary to pay those my guys to design the websites. So I had to go and start learning WordPress by fire by force. And I eventually designed it. Okay, Kizito, what's your question?
Okay, yeah, yes, sir. From this particular site you gave us, I wanted to ask I'm asking this, the ticker, the ones with the green ticker, is it one div that created those 4 tickers, or they separated them in 4 places, like 4 different divs in a parent div?
Yeah, it's 4 different divs in the parent div.
Okay.
Because you can see there's an icon there. Anything that has to do with grouping, okay? Anything that has to do with grouping. Anything that has to do with grouping. Now, another thing I've been doing, I also want you to take note. If you want to add any form of interaction on images, then you have to add them using different divs, then stack them on top of each other. Okay. Reason why I've been telling you that everything here, this might just use mass. Reason why I've been telling you that everything here is one div is because you can clearly see that these images are not what interactive. But you know, there are some websites you visit, maybe as you are scrolling, this part of the image and it goes one side, this one goes another side, this one goes another side. So in this case, you are going to add all those images in different divs, stack them together so you can animate them. We'll take a look at all those advanced concepts in a later class. So this is just now when you meet a content like this, please, this is not just animation. If you look closely, it's a video. So they've already probably animated something like this on After Effects, okay, or any video editing platform, and they exported it as video and now added the video element here. So when you see things like this, don't get confused. Sometimes what make people tired is they go to a website, maybe if they've learned how to structure something like this, then they go to a website, they start seeing some nice animation. They won't know that it's video. So if you are handed over that video asset, you can still create something like that. Okay. So one way to get better is always to design. Okay, it's always to design. So you can try replicating this specific. So right now, the way this page is structured, this page you are looking at, you can see the section. The section has this background image, and you see this background image is just a PNG that they aligned to the left, to the right hand side. It's a PNG, and they were still able to color it. Okay, let me see if I can show you guys quickly, because this is another thing that causes confusion. People will be like, how do I achieve this? Is it like this, another div? No, this is not a div. This is an entire section with this color. This image here is a PNG image that was uploaded to the section div, right? And aligned to the left. Let me see if I can get the asset. So I showed you people a tool that you can use to always get assets, okay? So let's see if we can get that asset. So some people used to hide their assets, some websites, but a lot of people don't care. Let's see. I wonder if I can even see it because it's almost white in color. Okay. I think this is it. I think this is it. Okay, no. This one is for this green here. This one is for this green here. So where is this one? I think it was embedded, but we can still find it. If we mean them, we will find them. Maybe 9 did this. Okay, let me use another way to find it. Okay, let's right click, inspect. Okay, that is it. You can see it's section pattern. Let me open it. Okay. Okay, I can see what they did here. This is what we are looking for. Section pattern. Okay. Let me scroll down. Section pattern. I'm looking for the background. Okay, look at it here. Okay, so if you always do this, you can always find it. Look at it here. It is right here. pastag.com.png. Click and open it. See the guy. So you can basically save. Download, save. So if you come back here, you can just add a section. Let me delete this. Okay, you add your section first. Okay, you add your section. Now you can see that that section has a color. So let me go back. What's the section color? The section color is this F9FBFC. Now you need to know how to use this. As a Webflow developer, please, one of the tricks you need to know is how to use this to inspect CSS and HTML elements. Because sometimes some people, some clients will tell you, design this website just like that website. Okay. For instance, let's say the designer said, I want this our button like this. And you don't know how to create a button like this. This is what will help you out inspecting it. Okay. You can come here. You come here, right click on it and inspect it. Okay. So you inspect it and see the style, the way they've styled it. It will help you a lot in your journey. So let me come back here. And we want to put that background color first. Let's add that background color. You can see color here. We can go here, put in that color. Okay, enter. Now let me give you this color first so you can see what's going on. Now that image, so anytime you are exporting, although when we get to Figma, okay, I'll show you how to export. Because we want that image to show. Let's come back here. Because we want this image, because we want this image to just show on this part while the background shows. From Figma, we'll just export this image as a PNG. We are not exporting whole section, if not to be heavy. Okay, so that when we come here, after adding our background, we can still put background image. Sorry, let me bring it to assets. Let me bring it into the asset first. Okay, this is it right here. And they used, I think they used filter to change that color. But I'm not going to spend so much time on that. So background image and choose image. Okay, select this image. You can see it's going to what? Replicate itself. It's going to repeat itself. So to make sure it doesn't repeat itself, I'm also going to use contain. Okay, let me use cover first. Now to make sure it doesn't replicate itself, we'll turn it off here under tiles. We turn it off, and you can see the alignment right now. It's in the center. I'll go and align it to the right hand side. Okay, so let me use that contain. I can also use custom, but let me go ahead and add padding to this section so that I'll know the exact size to use. So if I come in here, I can go ahead and now add padding, maybe padding 220. Okay, padding here as well, 220. Then I can start adding my content. So if you come back to this image, okay, if you come back to this image, you can start choosing how to align it to the top. So let's say top about 50%. So left, I want to push it to about the other side. Left 100%. Okay. So this is what we have. Now the good thing is that, like I said, if you don't export this as PNG, if you give it a background, you will not have that liberty to actually add your own background here, because right now you can see that any background we choose, it will just blend in with whatever we already have. You can see any background we choose, it will just blend in with whatever we already have right there. Okay. So this is exactly 9:01. So I'm going to end the class here. But please don't forget, you need to practice more. Okay. See everything in blocks. Practice most times. So if you go to a website, don't go and say you want to design a website at a go. No. Maybe if you just say any website you really like on your own, right? You can just go today, you try the navigation. Okay, you can just go to there and say, let me just build out this navigation and see. Now, another thing, don't go and deceive yourself. There are some navigations you see, you'll be like, I feel do them is simple. Please go and do them. Go and do them. Don't just say, I feel do them is simple. It's until you say it's simple. When they say, I do, now you're going to say you don't hard. So let's say you want to replicate this process, this time now. Okay, you can just come in here and start working on it. And later, when we get to Figma, I will show you how to import websites to Figma, so you can know the exact distance, so that when you are doing it on Webflow, you can use the exact distance and measurement to get a more pixel perfect design. So that's the end of today's live class. I hope you've learned something. I hope you've picked out one or two things. Okay, so it's very important that once you attend these classes, you learn something. Okay, so it's very important. Any questions so far? No. Class is only on Fridays. We're having classes once a week, and we follow through on your platform, on the platform for the remaining. So usually we use these evening classes, these Friday classes, to do some revision and re-explain every other thing that you might still be finding difficult. Okay. Okay. Thank you guys for coming. So I'll go ahead and end the call now. Don't forget, if you have a question, now, please, if you have a question, drop it in the group. Don't send to my DM, because